A cell phone. Every one of you has a cell phone. You probably carry it with you. My cell phone became my worst nightmare. My phone would ring, I'd pick it up. William cannot sit in circle time. William is having a hard time in preschool. William lines up trains, one right after another. It became my worst nightmare. And then one day, I was speaking at an ICI meeting in Huntington Beach, and the phone rang again. I picked it up. I was asked to come to the school. I showed up at the school. I was brought in. The preschool teacher said, William needs to leave the school. What's a mother to do? But the uniqueness of this is William had a twin brother, and he was fine. What's a mom to do? What is any parent to do? Would you have left your one child there and taken the other child? I did the hardest thing that I could ever do, and that was leave Jeffrey and take William. So agonizingly, we went through 2 months of intensive testing, very, very intensive testing. And one day, I got a phone call again. And this time, it was a diagnosis that I already suspected, and it was autism. William has autism. So how did I feel? Gosh, I felt hurt. I felt alone. We had just moved to California. I had just taken a new job. We had no family. We had very, very few friends. It was heartbreaking. I thought, what did I do? I must have done something wrong. Did I not take care of myself? What was it? What was it? And I wallowed in pity for a while, but only then to say, this is unfair to William. It's unfair to him. And what I did was I took a step back and I said, I am going to be his advocate and I'm going to redefine what the new normal is. And so Jeffrey stayed in class. William stayed out, and we began to define what the new normal is. So look at these two children. Any idea which one is the autistic one and which one isn't the autistic? Of course you wouldn't know, because that's what it's all about. It's redefining what the new normal is. So, what did we do? We embarked on a journey, and the journey was an interesting one. When we looked at all the different things that we could do to help William, I went through a series of learnings and discovery. Some very interesting. I learned about therapies that I had never heard of before. Definitely there were traditional ones. There were traditional therapies like occupational therapy. There were therapies like speech therapy. But we learned about social skills, where William could work with a group of individuals, individuals like him. We learned about horseback therapy, hippotherapy, which also works to help an autistic child learn to take care of horses and balance and posture. We did a little bit of therapy around alternative foods, and an interesting story is we decided to go gluten-free, dairy-free. Now, 10 years ago, gluten-free wasn't quite as popular as it is today. And so William would go to parties. He'd be invited to a birthday party. And every party has what? Cake and ice cream and pizza. All things that he couldn't even eat. So while the party was happening, I would run over, I'd get a Z pizza, gluten-free, I'd cut it up, I'd put it in the box, and I'd present it to him, but guess what? He didn't really fall for it. It wasn't like the pizza that all the other kids had. So that was an interesting one. One summer, we rented a hyperbaric chamber. Now, I don't know if you many know what a hyperbaric chamber is. Usually they're for people that get the bends when they're going up and down, too fast scuba diving. But there was some therapy where hyperbaric chambers could help children by getting oxygen to their brain. So here's the hyperbaric chamber. It's about this big, and we blew it up, and William would go in there with his therapist. Now that was a little odd, especially when his best friend wanted to also go into the hyperbaric chamber with him. So we did that for a good summer. I think ABA therapy was probably one of our best saviors. William did intensive ABA therapy, which is a type of therapy where you teach children how to work in different situations and teaching them to learn a little bit differently. So we did that as well. And what was fantastic about all of this was that it was trying new things. It was never giving up. When something didn't work, I'd take a step back and my husband and I would say, let's go try something different. We read, we researched, we looked at all sorts of different alternatives. And it was a fascinating experience to go through that, and also very uplifting, because guess what? The journey was to redefine that new normal, and the journey was a journey of hope. So we had taken this despair and turned it into a real journey to hope. And so a little audience participation here. So you heard of a couple things that we did. So who's heard of 3 truths and a lie, or 2 truths and a lie? You've heard that? Great. So I'm gonna give you 3 things and you tell me which one you think the truth is. We became vegans. We purchased a hyperbaric chamber for our den, or William was able to go back to the school that he was once asked to leave. Okay, stupid question, right? We all know what the answer was. And so William joined his brother, albeit repeating kindergarten, at the same school, wearing a red polo, and being so proud of the fact that he got to walk into that school again with his brother. It was a heartbreaking moment for me, a heartbreaking, wonderful moment where all the hard work and everything that I had done and all the support of my colleagues and coworkers and friends really came true. And I thought, we've broken through this. We've broken through this. We're on our road to redefining what the new normal is. And I was happy. I even started to kind of like the phone a little bit. But then one day, I came home from work and Jeffrey is crying. He's in his room. Jeffrey, what's wrong? I mean, devastatingly crying. And then I realized I had another child. I had someone who needed me just as much as William did. So that started a new lesson into this road to the new normal, which is, my gosh, I almost forgot the other child. I was so focused on making sure that William could succeed, that he could go back to school, that I almost forgot about Jeffrey. So what that led us on a road to was what I would call the separation of 2 parents and 2 children. We would go see movies, Jeffrey and his father would go see a ball game, we would switch. Because we wanted to make sure that each child had the opportunity to support and participate in their own activities. And guess what? They were not the same activities. Very interesting, again, dilemma on the gluten-free, dairy-free, because we found out quickly that Jeffrey wanted no part of that. William didn't want any part of it either. But we finally said, you know what? We don't need to have similar behaviors for both of our kids because they are individual kids and they're their own people. And so Jeffrey thrived, which was great. And it really helped me again to think about the other lesson in this road to defining the new normal, which was making sure that I didn't forget about that lost child and really focusing in on taking care of our family and both of our children's needs. So, the new normal. How did I define the new normal and what did it mean? Well, the new normal to me is a lot of different things. And I wanted to share with you some pictures of what the new normal is for us. The new normal is a kid down on the bottom right-hand side who goes to art class. Not unusual, except for the fact is when the group has to draw a dog, William draws a monster that kind of looks like a dog. And he gets through it by saying, but it's a dog, but it really is a monster. And then the next day when they're drawing a rabbit, the rabbit looks like a monster. But you know what? It's redefining the new normal. Who cares if your if your dog looks like a monster? It's about a kid who loves to paint his face. That's the new normal for William. That's the new normal. It's about a child who has a calendar in his brain. He can, Michael, what's your birthday?
September 28th.
He could tell you, September 28th, he could tell you that's going to be on a Friday this year. And you'd look at and you're like, how can this kid do it? He can go 3 years back and 3 years forward. And believe me, I've thought a little bit about a Vegas trip with him at some point. The new normal for William is the new normal that we should look at for all children. The new normal is defining things that aren't what you think they are. And it's really looking at opportunities for us to grow, develop, change the world. You know, there's a very famous author. She's an autistic woman. Her name is Temple Grandin. Has anybody heard of her? She's amazing. Actually, I'm going to go see her. She's coming to LA in 2 months. She's a professor at Colorado State University. She is a professor of animal science. And what she would tell you in one of her speeches is that we should focus more on, we should emphasize more on what our children can do than versus what they cannot do. And I really take that to heart because I do believe the fact that we should embellish what our children can do. So I'll keep redefining the new normal. Believe me, every day is a different challenge. Every year will be a different challenge. I don't know what's ahead, but I do know the fact that I'll be in this journey together, and I'll make sure that we'll keep pushing the idea of redefining the new normal. And so, my phone, which I had said, we were kind of back together again. We were having fun. I liked the phone. It rang. I picked it up. I listened. It was the headmaster of our school. My heart dropped because I'd never gotten a call from the headmaster. So I picked it up and I said, hi, this is Laura Muller. And he said, I just want to let you know that we just had a school meeting. I said, yes. And he goes, the second and third grade teachers have gotten together and they've rewritten a portion of their curriculum. The portion of their curriculum they rewrote, they learned from William. They rewrote that in a different way because William taught them how to think differently about learning, how to think differently about teaching. And I smiled. And I said, I can't wait for the next phone call. Thank you.